All right. So this is live now. This is primarily just me developing and working on my own for this for Vigilante Racer right now. I'm rebuilding one of the older projects that I had that had one of the better systems for handling. And I'm just broadcasting that and sharing that out. It's not specifically for people to follow along. You can if you want to. However, I will be covering areas of how I'm producing this, dealing with physics, dealing with debugging, design tools, etc. So the current task that I'm working on right now, and I've been eating a hot pepper, and I just took a bite before I hit the record button, so yay. All right, let's see. Wait, I still have the video feed up right in the middle. Move that one. Okay, so I have the normal car that I can drive, and then I have another one that's on here that just has the car capability. So it has the car script, which is better described as a hoverboard. Well, this car has the car driver script. This is the one that I'm controlling. This is a traffic car. Now, the artwork that's in here is very gray and dark, and it's supposed to stand out by visual effects that will be added later on. Anyway, right now I'm working on building a track system or traffic system. So I've got traffic in here. Well, I've got the traffic system that's more the traffic designer inside of here. So it's a part of system, and I suppose I should call this designer. Anyway, so if I hit Control Shift B, it gives me the sets of tools. If I'm hitting, what is it, V, and while moving my mouse over the different points, it can automatically add them. If I hit X while I'm over one of the selected, whatever the selected one is, or if I hit X, whichever one is selected, it will let me drag it to wherever. And then if I hit, what is it, Z, I think is new. Yeah, adds a new node. So I can hit Z and add one here, and then C to connect. And then let's see, V to select that one, C to connect, C to connect it to here, and C to connect it to there. Now, when I'm moving this, the only thing that matters is that which one of these is closest to the mouse, and that's how it selects its connection. So if I were to have my mouse here, for instance, then selecting it will connect it to this one. So if I hit C to connect, oh, what was that? Oh, it was closest to itself. Okay, let's move it to here. There. So it connected to that one. However, if I have two that are closer and I'm in between, then I have to be closest to whichever one I want. All right. Now, I don't have undos in this one, but I don't want this spot. Which one was remove node? That's B. Blast node. Okay. But anyway, I created hotkeys to make the design process really simple and then also work side by side with while you're moving around inside of the environment to make it easier as a design tool. All right, the section that I'm working on now is that I have a traffic car. It's just the car, but it needs a script attached to it that is going to move along the point. So basically, it takes whatever points that it's going to attach to and says it picks one as a destination. Well, it would probably pick the closest one to it when it first gets initialized and head towards that one. Or actually, I might just start it at the intersection, at the nodes, or maybe 50-50 between a pair of them. All right, now I've got the point, and the car's destination is just to head towards that point. That's all it's supposed to do. Once it gets close enough, it's supposed to pick another destination on it that is not the one that it already went to, the one that it came from. All right, so let's start building the script. Do I have traffic system, freight car action? No. Let's go into scripts, create mono behavior script. Now inside of this one is going to be traffic car. Let's go with that. Traffic car. Oh, I didn't click it in time to get into the project. Wait, I just put in an empty script and hot reload couldn't figure that one out? Oh, well, I guess maybe that's right because the script there's nothing on Unity's side that already has it. So Unity creates a C++ instance of the code that you're working with, or it's got its own objects on the side that are in the C++ realm. But none of that information existed when Unity started working with it here. So it needed, I guess Unity had to do the initial stuff. I'm taking a lot of guesses at hot reload and how it works. Like I understand that you can recompile a function and then replace the address of where that goes in memory so that other function addresses get moved to other places. And that's my understanding of how hot reload works. It recreates the functions, in some cases maybe objects, and then replaces the memory instance addresses of how you get to them and find them. All right, so traffic car is going to need to control the actual car. So public car and car. All right, so we've got a reference to the car. Now we also need the traffic system. It's not the traffic system though. It is the baked traffic that we need. The traffic system is more about the design tool. Now that bakes the traffic to a baked traffic component or a baked traffic asset, scriptable object. So that one is baked. We're going to go public baked traffic. Now this stores the information. So it has all the information, and the code that I left off with was producing the baked code. And it looked like it had no. Baked traffic was still broken when I left off. So I will have to go over there and fix it. So the idea is, like, for instance, I have all these points that are on here, Control Shift B. So I've got these 6 points. They have they have connections going across them. And now this is designed to run through quickly for the drawing, for displaying it out. In that case, I don't need to know that this point can connect to this point. I just need to know that there is a connection between these 2 points at all. So I have A and B being stored. In the case where I have a runtime system, when I get to one of these points, I need to pick another point, which means that I need to understand from this one's perspective how to find the other ones. And if I have to look through a list of all the potential connection points, and I'm not doing objects or class objects for this one. I'm using structures. So I have to understand the memory a little bit better on it. Class objects are easier, slower, but they're easier. All right, let's see what we got. Where was the data? Data goes here. Baked traffic. Nodes. We got 6 nodes in here. It's creating these, but they all have an index of 0. So it created elements. That's good. But it has no positions and no indexes. Wait. Positions should be a vector 3. Wait a minute. And why is it 96? Okay, so to understand what's going on here, a single element inside of the baked traffic is supposed to have a position. Then it's supposed to have a count, which in this case should be 8. And then it's supposed to have indexes and positions. Indexes say for the exact same index as elements 0 through 7 here, we would have 0 through 7 on this side as well. Index is going to say where in the array of nodes is this other index that I'm referring to. And then positions is supposed to be vector 3s. It should be just 0 through 7 as well. But in this case, we ended up with 96 for some reason. I have no idea why, but at least I can see that there's something obviously messed up there and it is getting data. Wait a minute. So it actually showed the data. I was running into a bigger problem yesterday because I'm using unsafe code in here and it wasn't showing any of this. All right, let's go back into the code and let's go over to bake traffic, F12. All right, bake traffic, scriptable object. Get rid of these two, I don't need them. So this is the structure. It's an unsafe structure. It's serializable. So we do have indexes. Oh, that's right. Positions. I'm using a fixed byte array on positions, so it's actually bytes. It's going to be whatever this is times 12. So in this case, 8 times 12. We have 8 indexes. Positions is going to have 8 times 12 because it's 12 bytes for a vector 3. However, they're all zeros, so that's obviously not getting the right data in there. Now, why not? The fact that it does show me anything in here, that's interesting. I wonder if I set this to 3 and this to 3, and then I close Unity and I come back to it. Let's try that. Oh, and if you're wondering why my projects list is empty right now, it's because I moved my projects drive. And so I told it to just flush out anything that I'm not using. And so the only one that I had updated for the address for or had reloaded since is Vigilante 41. So let's reload that. And yay, waiting for Unity to load. Maybe this is the time that I take more hot pepper. All right. So now let's take a look at the data again. If I pull up the data, we have the data. It stored it. It did store the information. Let's take a look at what this looks like in the actual code. If I go over to, or in the actual file. So show in Explorer, and I just realized I don't have a binary system, but this usually stores it to JSON. However, this is fixed, so maybe it's going to go binary? That would be interesting. Huh. Positions is a long list of bytes. Did it just put a long list of characters? But then that could potentially get line returns in here. No. This is hexadecimal. It's got to be hexadecimal. That means that if I took one of these and I put, let's say, 256, let's just go 227, then we should get something like F. No. 254 should be FE or FD? FE. Okay, so that's saved. And I'm also just curious to see what this does. Now, Control S twice to save all the files that are sitting in here. Close this one, and now let's open that again. Open with Notepad, and do we get like an FE in here? It's inside the second one. Wait, where is it? Because there's the 3. Oh, there it is, FE. So that's hexadecimal if anyone's unfamiliar with it. Each character goes from 0 to 9 and then A through F, which gives you 16 possible combinations. So you have 16 and 16, or 16 times 16, because you have 2 of these together and you get 256. How many character or how many variations you can have in a byte. All right. So we are storing the data. Excellent. That's good. But it does mean right now that my data being stored is broken and I need to figure out why. And it's probably pointer issues because I'm using pointers to set the data inside of here. I'm never marking that the data is changed. So only if I actually change the count that's on it. And when I first created this, the first thing that I did was create the field for um, the count. And that was one of the things being set in the code. So it already had it. And so there were never any updates because I didn't change that field. That's a guess as to what's going wrong. Anyway, so inside of this, we have the bake command. Now, after bake, where's my down? There. All right, so we have baked. Now we need to tell it that this function needs to be notified. What is that? Asset database dot dirty. Save asset if dirty. How do I mark the project as dirty? Asset database dot save. Okay. I forget the command for this. So in this case, I'll bring over my browser there. C Sharp, Unity, and what was the step I was trying to do? Oh yeah. Unity, C Sharp, set asset, set scriptable as dirty, and save. Okay. Trying to set a scriptable object. There we go. What was that? It was a utility class. Come back here. Editor utility dot set dirty. Okay. Editor utility dot set dirty, and that is for this. Okay, so I'm in the bake traffic scriptable, and that's going to set it as dirty, which means that the system will know that it needs to save it. Now, I changed those bytes. I changed those bytes so it knew to save it. However, I changed those bytes manually. Okay. I changed those manually so it knew about it, but otherwise I think it just created them when it's doing the baking. So in the baking, let's expand this out. The first thing we do is we're going to set nodes. We set the nodes position. Wait, do I ever set the count? I need to set the count in here. Count plus plus. We're increasing the count. Connecting a node. All right, whatever. Oh yeah, so we call this, we're doing this for both sides. We increase the count because it has a connection going back and forth. I think I'm duplicating a bunch of these. Hmm. All right, I'll come back to some of that logic later, especially if I find out something's wrong with it. But for now, I don't have that many connections. The maximum any of these have should be 3 or 4 right now inside of the game. So let's go back to there, and inside of here, Control Shift B there. This one has 1, 2, 3. Has 1, 2, 3. That one has 1, 2, 3. All of these just have 1, 2, 3. Okay. So it has 3. So even if it goes back and forth, that only goes up to 6. Now, when it's trying to set the data, let's check what's going on here. So we got connect node. This one is connecting the nodes and it checks through all the values in the int A and B. This is a pair of arrays, integers that are basically indexes to say the index of this node and this node are connected. But it's one way. So whichever way it was added from the design tool, we're going to go through it and make sure that both sides get this. So effectively, we call the function twice. And we pass in map A and B, and we alternate which side they're on. But then this function goes through every single one of these and checks to see, is it available? Is it used? Okay, so we also increase the count when we do that. Oh, but it's only one way, because so the designer tool, we should only end up with one connection for each one. For every two nodes that are connected, we should only have one connection line. So that's fine. That's not a problem. The count won't go beyond what I was expecting. All right, index out of range. No, this is node. Then in this one, we're trying to take the indices. We're trying to take the count of this and set it to map B. Now, indexes, this is a pointer. Let's go to here, F12. So inside of this, I'm using a fixed integer, which basically just means here's a pointer to a block of memory that is 48 bytes long. No. This one is 8 times 4. Max 8 and integer of 4 bytes. So we end up with 32 bytes here. And then 32 plus 16 indicates that we are up to 48 bytes by this point. All right, so this suggests that something in my code is not using the correct stuff, and I probably have some memory errors. In that case, maybe I will just write a more direct piece of code for the time being and not worry as to whether or not my pointer logic is functional. All right, so when we're trying to set the value, we need the indexes, so we're going to say node count. Indexes at this position needs to be the index we get from there. Now, map B, we should be able to set it, but indexes... Okay, we'll change this line and we should get connections to start setting stuff. It won't fix the vector 3s, but we'll set that one after the fact. Let's start with this one. So index is node count and we equal this one. So this is a pointer, but we're just using the pointer how we should. Ooh, should I do a debug log here? You know what? Let's actually check the data. Okay, debug it while it's attached to the Unity editor. I think it's already running. Is that what that means? It's already connected? Connected to Unity editor. Oh, there we go. That's doing something now. Good. All right, shrink this down. Now, if I go into... Why is baked traffic running now? It's supposed to only execute when the bake command gets called. Okay. Play. Continue? Why are you stopped here? Oh, because in Rider, this one doesn't do anything. This is the play edit for Unity. Okay, that's not confusing. At least it's quick to remember. Okay, resume program. After getting more heavily focused on Unity, or on using Rider, I have been liking it a lot more than Visual Studio now. Okay, so we got that code in there, and let's turn this off. I did not mean to actually run the game. Now we're going to go to bake. Okay, so bake, oh, I need to set the debug point, which I didn't have. Where was that? Let's do it here. That way I can check the values and what's pointed or what's actually stored in those arrays. Oh, I don't know how this deals with debugging fixed data. We'll find out, I guess. Returning to Unity triggered the bake system. There is something really wrong with that. We're going to disable this. We're going to go into the traffic system. And I need the code that has that bake function. Okay, right here. Bake. So if the button is clicked, GUI button bake, then we're going to be calling in the code that calls the bake. Does this get called anywhere else? No, it doesn't. That's it. Just right here. So why is the designer triggering this every time that I drop back into Visual Studio, into Unity? That doesn't make sense. Am I misunderstanding what button does? I could have sworn every time that I use this that it returns true when the button's clicked. Okay, returns true when the user clicks the button. Why is it already triggering that code? Okay, so I'm going to go up to here. And now I'm inside of this. We are, continue. What triggered this? Nothing. Is Unity purposefully breaking the UI code, the old UI code at this point? What am I on? 6.4. Unity getting rid of old UI tools. Okay, it's actively working on getting rid of this and removing the old ones. Go away. All right, so which has been a point of discussion among the community. The UI toolkit is a core module of the engine and is expected to be a removable package in the future. Users are encouraged to stay updated with the latest developments and consider using the new UI toolkit for their projects. All right. So it shouldn't be gone. But that absolutely shouldn't be triggering. Okay, well, you know what? It's triggering. I was planning to debug it when I clicked the button, so I'm going to follow that. So let's go over to traffic system or baked system, and let's put a line break here. All right, continue. There, we got radius, we've got map A, map B. What have we got stored in this? 231. We have a bunch of stuff stored in here. Great. And in this one, what have we got? 310, 4352. Okay. So positions. Now positions, we've got 6 positions. That is correct. All right. So inside of the 6 positions, they have clear data, so they would absolutely not be a bunch of zeros. All right, now let's go down to, it's trying to set the data that it's going to be storing into what? It's going to be storing them into the array of nodes here. So we create a node, we set dirty node.position, node equals new node, and then we set the values. We're building up that node. This is for each one of the node and the positions. How does it get the position information? No, it doesn't matter. Not yet. Okay, so when we're creating a node, we create the new node object. We set the position according to the positions that were passed in. So we start with that one. Then we call the connect nodes function. We update the progress bar. And when we're done with all this, we make sure to set the object dirty. Okay. Now in this one we should, okay, so let's continue this one and let us see what happens. If it had some kind of exception or error when I clicked bake, then the GUI technically never finishes. Does that mean that it's still processing a bake because some kind of bug happened? But I don't see anything in here. Zeros across. So if it's restarting and I can still interact with the environment, why am I not seeing errors filling this? All right. So connect. I don't get anything inside of there. All right. So how many positions are in here? 6 are coming in. Let's put one here. Okay. Now continue to next. Okay. Let's put a few more breakpoints in. Next, 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 next. Okay, so in this case, I should be 1 because it was 0 last time. Okay, what's this button? AI. Oh, I don't want that on. What do I do? Is that unlock next level development? Okay, good. It's not on. All right, over here, continue. Oh, once it sets all the data in the node, I should be able to take a look at the node. Let's continue on, let it do its thing. And now let's go to node and see what that looks like. It's got a position. It has positions in it. Let's look at the array. It's got actual data. Okay, this has real data stored in it. That's what I was hoping for. Okay, now indexes should also have something. So let's go over to indexes. Expand that out. Yeah, we've got real data in here. 3, 5, bunch of zeros. That's what it's connected to. Why am I only seeing? Oh, there's a problem with my code. If nothing uses it, oh, no. This has count. So this looks like it should be a count of 3. And it happens to connect to an index of 0. The other ones, it doesn't use. So count is 3. Yes. Okay. So we're connected to 3 points, which is 0, 1, and 2. 3, 0, and 5 are the indexes it connects to. Okay. We've got that one. Fixed element field equals 3. What is that? I don't know what that means. I'm going to leave that as is for now, though. Okay, array view. So we've got real data. Okay. Let's stop messing with that code. Let's make sure that this file is saved. Okay, we have set the data. Now let's go take a look at it again. Give me there. Open with Notepad. Okay, so we got data coming out. A whole lot of zeros again. The records are the serialization. I'm using fixed pointers, and the fixed pointers are not, even though it captures it and the fact that it exists, it gets nothing out of it. It doesn't have whatever tooling or utility it needs. No. Indexes, didn't this have a 3 in it before? Yeah, I saw a 3 and a 5e when it was editing and saving that. So why can't I see it now? Okay, if I go to nodes, does this actually... Oh, I'm in the traffic system. I need to go to baked traffic. Here we go. all of these, this is where the real data, where the data is supposed to go. So for whatever happens, that's still getting converted over. It doesn't get displayed right. It doesn't get serialized right. So how the data actually sits in memory versus what's going out to serialization is different. That suggests that Unity does have a bug here, that it cannot save fixed data. Okay, I want to do a search for that. Unity scriptable, Unity serialization cannot handle fixed arrays. That's arrays and lists, serialization rules. All right, let's take a quick look. I'm looking for unsafe, unmanaged, fixed. Has a field type that can be serialized. Fixed sized buffers. That means that it can support it. It claims it can support it. No, Unity does not support serialization of multi-level types, multi-dimensional arrays, jagged arrays, dictionaries, whatever, that's fine. Use the serialization callbacks by implementing iSerialization callback receiver. Okay, so a separate consideration is while I'm producing this, I have how I want the data to exist in memory when it's running. And then I also could create just ordinary arrays where it stores the data as part of the nodes and then put the iSerialization callback receiver to handle when it, uh, after serialization, after deserialization, that it's supposed to re-execute code to convert the other copy of the data into the form of data that I want. I was hoping to avoid that. I guess an alternative in this case is that I can save a binary file and read that binary file. All right, so now it still says it supports this. And generally speaking, I might be running into an issue where search engines don't allow this. What? Okay, so the documentation that I came into said that it can support fixed size buffers. But then AI is now in this one, I made an absolute statement. Unity serialization cannot handle fixed arrays. Let me try this in another way to see if the AI does it. We'll bring up DeepSeek. I want to try it over here. Now, DeepSeek I have set up so that it doesn't remember any past stuff. It doesn't use the data to train. All right, this is going to go try to back this up or see if it's wrong. But I want to run two of them. I want to run one where I ask it as a question, and another one where I just make it as a statement. It's important to clarify Unity Serializer does not support the fixed keyword in C#, which is likely what you're referring to as fixed arrays. The fixed keyword in C# is used to declare fixed-sized buffers. Okay, in an unsafe context, which is often used for interop with native code. This is not limited to Unity's This is not a limitation of Unity serialization. It's a fundamental aspect of how C#'s fixed buffer works. They are not regular managed objects, yes, and are not designed for Unity's serialization pipeline. Okay, it makes a reference. Let's take a look at what it's referencing. Okay, this is referencing a comment. What about this search? There was script serialization, manual serialization rules. Let's do a little bit deeper of a dive for fixed. Control F, fixed. Okay, just the one. How about unsafe? You must ensure that the field has a field that can be serialized. fixed sized buffers. Hmm. Okay, so the reference that they gave me points out to here. So, how can one declare a structure, more specifically an array, inside another structure in C sharp? Something I found on the Microsoft web, and it doesn't appear to work for in Unity. Yeah, you can absolutely do that, but you're referencing an object from it. Structs can reference objects. Because C sharp's structs are value types rather than reference types, fixed arrays like that are not permitted. Okay, so we're getting comments, value types rather than reference types are not permitted, which would also seem to suggest that if you have a float field or an int field or a byte field, that those would not be permitted either. But this is a limited statement from someone's reply to a question. All right. Okay, so this is not serializing the data properly, which means that the inspector cannot see it. It only gets the zeros. The fact that it gets anything at all in there, it matches the size. I'm impressed by that. But then it doesn't get the data, which of course makes it all confusing. All right, so fixing it. Now I need to fix a limitation in Unity to make this processing work faster. It still means that the load time of the level or the game, it still has to load that data in. And I was hoping to load it in a form more closely matching. Can I save a file that will be included with the game? I'm pretty sure I can. Unity, but I haven't done this. I'm usually using scriptable assets to save whatever data and state that I want. Unity, C sharp, scriptable object. No, I don't care if it's a scriptable object. Save binary data and reload it. Save binary data in Unity. I suppose I could repoint that type or recast all the data inside of it as just an array of integers or an array of bytes and have it separate. I guess that'll have to be the route that I go for at this time. All right, so inside of here, we are inside of baked traffic. It's got an array of nodes in here. Now we're going to bring up the data that we need to load this in. So a node, this is basically going to be a long list of bytes. And I could just have an array of bytes in here that manages that amount. Each one of these has a fixed amount of space. So we know that the total amount for any one of these nodes can be 144 bytes. So 144 times the number of bytes is the byte array size that I need. Now I can recast each one of these as part of those byte arrays or copy the memory into it. All right, so let's do that. Now I need the iSerialization callback receiver. It's one of the items on here. So iSerialization callback receiver, control dot, and yes, implement the members. Yes, both of them. Thank you. Okay, so before serialize, this code is going to get executed any time that it needs to serialize the data. So we've got the data that's in there. That means that we need to take whatever is stored in our nodes list that it is having trouble expressing and serializing, these fixed items to be specific, and we need to serialize that. Now, technically, we could just store the information inside of each of these. The count works. We get the count. Let's double check that because most of these have all of the items that were in there had 3. So let's take a look at the data. Does the data show 3? Count 0. Count 0. Count 0. All of these have a count of 0. How did I get... Yeah, count shows up as 0. My own position shows up as 0. It's as if this never gets set at all. I should put debug logs in. What is this? Oh, yeah, method is not functioning here. You know what? I'm going to put debug logs in and make sure that I'm actually getting to the code that I'm expecting to get to. So in that case, this is going to be slower, but there's very little data that's in there now. Much better to debug this with 6 nodes rather than 6,000. Okay, so with this one, we have the references. We want to be able to store each one of these points. Where do we actually store the count? Count plus plus happens here. Let's put in a debug log. We're going to make this slow. Debug.log node count. And let's put that in here. Node count. Okay, we'll just add that one for now. Save it, return to here. Serialization, when it creates this data, it needs to store the information. Now, I could effectively just rebake that information at the beginning, but then I'm processing like thousands of nodes. And that's going to get exponentially bigger because it has to look through this connection list of the entire connection list from both directions to see if it actually connects. Let's go over here. Channel content, sure, whatever. Live, make sure this is actually running properly. Okay, yeah, I'm actually live. Not just assuming that I am. That should go away. Expand that out. So nodes 6. Yeah, but of course they're all empty. Now let's go back to the traffic system. Look at that. It's stored them all. We've got node counts being in there. It is setting the node count. So let's take a look at this like a rubber ducky. On the node count, we set the node count. So we've got the node and we're setting the values of it. What is the node? Oh, we have a reference to the original node. So we have a reference to the node. It actually stores it. Now, what do we do with that node? We've got the reference to the node over here as well. Node.position. We create the new node. We set the node position. We never actually put the node back. This bug is mine. Okay. That's got to be it. We set that length right up there for how many nodes. The count should have been built up. Everything is going to be stored as 0 because I have never actually saved the node. Okay, simple typo. Good, yay. In this one, we're going to say, what is this one? Nodes I equals node. Wow. I need that little meme where the characters just like look sideways for a second. Okay, back to Unity. We're going to get a bunch more debugging stuff. Bake. Okay, so bake happened again. We got a whole bunch of these. Clear, just double check that. Bake. I move my mouse over this and it already reacts. Okay, so now let's go over to the baked system. We've got data. Okay, awesome. So that part's debugged. All right, now I am going to stop the stream for now, and I'll be back. I'll be back later tonight, I imagine, or maybe about 8, 9 hours. All right. How do I stop this? There it is. Stop streaming.